Hi, everybody, and it's really good to be joined by John. John, our expert on well-being. I've got a quick discussion here, John, about this concept of psychological safety, which is a buzzword that's been going around for, I don't know, probably since a lot more since COVID.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, in our short 10-minute chat here, to start with, what it is, in your opinion, how can we define it? What is psychological safety?
Well, yeah, I was musing over the definition of what it may or may not be. For me, it's about building trust. When I feel psychologically safe in a workplace, I feel that I've got people around me who have got my back, that they trust me and I trust them. So that for me is the way I define it. I was looking at what research is in this area into psychological safety. Google have done a lot. Apple have done quite a lot with their teams. And what they've said is that psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up, so you feel psychologically safe to raise questions, concerns, ideas. And there was another thought that psychological safety can also link to the processes that are in a workplace.
Right.
So the processes, not just the systems, but the processes that govern the way that people work, also need to be fostering that idea of psychological safety, that people have got surety about how they do their job, what's in place to help them do their job, what timelines are in place, what are the mechanisms for making a complaint if they need to. So that all links into it, but the ultimate point for me is that people feel safe, that they're able to speak up, and I think they just know what they're doing in a workplace and they know where to go.
Right. So in a sense, although it's a new term, then it's a practice that good managers have been following forever, really.
I think so, yeah.
Enabling people who work with them to express themselves without retribution and without implication that you're going to be scored down.
I think so, yeah.
You don't need to seek approval. You can just be yourself and say what you think, because we trust you. That kind of behavior is what we would probably all agree is normal, or should be normal. Should be normal. A lot of folk have been more heightened awareness or heightened intolerance if it's not happening, I guess. So I'm wondering, why is it important? It's obviously important from a recruitment point of view now, for being very much more choosy. But why, in your view, is it important for the goals of the organization, as well as making the individuals feel good? How does it help the organization?
Yeah, again, it's something that I gave a little thought to. I'll lead with my personal opinion, and then maybe a little bit about what the research has found. My personal opinion is if you don't feel safe to speak up and to have a voice in the workplace, then one, you can't ever really establish happiness. You can't be yourself, on a personal level. I think that as an organisation, people will not be able to express their ideas. So leaders and the organisation, don't get the opportunity to hear them. So they don't get an opportunity to potentially have contributions that could help them, improve. So I think there's that from the way I see it. What the research has showed is that when people don't feel safe at work, whether that be psychologically safe, emotionally, or with the processes or systems that are in the workplace, people aren't productive. And let's just take it back to systems and processes. So if we've got a business and we're not clear on what the processes are, let's say how I'm supposed to do my job, what timelines have I got, what deadlines have I got, then I don't feel very, very, very safe to explore my role fully, because I'm always sort of second guessing, well, what should I do? What shouldn't I do? Maybe I'm asking questions to my manager, but actually, what do you think? What is my deadlines? This is all slowing us down. So there's a cost to the bottom end in terms of the systems in place. If systems aren't supportive of the business and and the teams, then again you've got a situation where things are not running efficiently, and people again are second guessing themselves.
Yeah.
So for me, psychological safety is one on the emotional side, us as human beings, and two on the business side and the processes, but both intertwine. It affects business efficiency.
Yeah, and you, from what you say, it strikes me, it's a very smart observation that you've made, that you can't operate a business on false data.
No,
you have to have the right data. So our deliveries arriving on time, is physical health and safety being operated well enough on site? Is the recruitment process yielding the quality of candidate that we want? And everything in business needs accurate data to make corrective decisions. And if the data is not accurate because people don't feel safe revealing it, then the business suffers. I mean, it's a straight, simple, I suppose, equation that we want to know the truth. So people emotionally have to feel comfortable to tell the truth. So we need to set that tone in order to get the right data for the right business decisions. That's what you've said sort of comes out for me. And so the final question, John, then is, okay, we get that. We want truth in our organizations. Confidence to say it how it is without fear. So how do we get there? In many organizations, it's already there. Many organizations, it's not. So what do managers do to get there?
Yeah. Interesting. There's five tips that I've looked at, which I think are sound. But I'll give you an example from my life. So I've worked in a few teams in different organisations, and I think where psychological safety has worked very well is where problems are nipped in the bud fast, and you've got proactivity around the management, that they're not only are they looking out for not problems, but looking out for people's well-being, let's say, making sure things are working well. But when they notice something happening, they're reactive. Let's say COVID, for instance, and working with you were very reactive to, right, well, I think we need to have team meetings regularly, every couple of days. I think we need to try to get together where we can. Let's do a games night, this, that, and the other. So I think where psychological safety works well is when leaders are really reactive. Where it doesn't work well is, let's say, a leader sits on the fence, is a little bit, maybe wants to act, but dithers a little bit. That can be damaging to psychological safety. That's my personal side of things. With the 5 points that I looked at, I think they are pretty sound. I'll just read them. So
sure. And
I think the first one links to what I just said. Number one, make psychological safety a priority. So I think focus on it, go, right, okay, what is this thing? How do we do it? Okay, let's as leaders, let's make sure we do that. And I think certainly in terms of meetings and culture, we need to be able to have a voice. So our staff, ourselves as leaders, we need to be able to speak openly, and I think that needs to be facilitated. So looking at ways of facilitating people having a voice is important, whether that be forums or having structures to meetings where people have an opportunity to speak. And then I think the next one cascades out of that. They establish norms in your business. What is our expectations? What's our principles? What's our ways of working? So that everybody, when they join the organisation, goes back to your recruitment point, buys into this idea of, oh, okay, this is the established way that we work. Okay, great. I think it's also important to have a space for new ideas. So you've got this ideas that might challenge the status quo, even the status quo that's working well. And finally, I think that, and this is something that I find all organisations struggle with a little bit, is embracing the idea of conflict. Not looking for conflict, but being open to having those difficult conversations. And maybe you've got a thought on that, Mark, because it's something that I've struggled with as a leader, how to bring through healthy conflict situations where you can discuss challenging areas. And just to quickly add a final thought on that, I really like what you say about psychological safety happens when people know their leaders are acting, they're not just waiting.
on the fence, as you said. That's number one. So what can managers do? Well, they can lead from the front and they can make decisions publicly and quickly and clearly, rather than wait unduly. That's number one. So it's active leadership. But what you've said about the question, how do we embrace conflict?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's puzzled me for a long time too. And over the years, I've gradually realized that it's actually having the discipline of your second point. I'm sorry, your third point, I think it was, which was a habit of challenging the way things are.
Yeah.
And a formal way of saying, okay, let's look at what we're doing. Let's try and challenge it. And we're going to have fun challenging it. And most of what we say won't work, but some nuggets will be in there. And if that's a frequent and regular conversation within teams, and it's acceptable to challenge, you are encouraged to challenge the status quo, then conflict starts to arise, conflict of opinion starts to arise, which is what we want, but it's expected to arise because we're supposed to be talking about how to change stuff. And that for me is where the constructive conflict can come in a safe way, in a constructive way. But yeah, it's a huge subject, and I think it's certainly for those organizations looking for the best talent. The best talent now is looking for places where they can express and they can honestly share data, if you like, where they feel psychologically safe to do so, and can get rewarded rather than knocked down or knocked back for that. So thank you, John. That's a really, really good batch of thoughts there, and some good tips too. Really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thanks.